Hey everyone, it's Adrienne here, the Integrative Awareness Coach, welcoming you to the preview for Creating Your Inner Temple free meditation series I created for people who are interested in being the fullness or being in the fullness of who they are. And so today I wanted to give you a quick recap of weeks 1 through 5, I believe. No, actually 1 through 4. This week is actually week 5 out of 11. So it's going really quickly. In some ways, and in others, not. But it is a very fascinating process that's unfolding here. And this has been unfolding for many years under the surface of my spiritual, emotional, psychological, and mental development. The series is a product of all of my learning, all of my spiritual training that I've gone through, and it's amazing to watch it emerge in front of my eyes, because years ago, I didn't know, one, that it would emerge, and two, I had no idea how it would emerge, and three, it's emerging way better than I could have imagined if I really tried and worked really hard on it. It just kind of emerged out of an expression of who I am. So this week, in week 5, I'm laughing because the topic is for this week's meditation is I am that I am. And interestingly enough, this I think it was last week after I had sometime last week, I don't remember, I posted a picture of a beautiful woman with wings that was in a shop window. And my post was about, the energy of the Phoenix rising, or the rebirth of Venus. That's what I was calling it. And Venus really represents what we value, what we hold dear, our values individually, and then also as a culture and a community, and then how those values are embodied in the structures and practices, and then of course in our own physical body. And so I think it was in my podcast called Mastering the Matrix. I think it was episode 5 maybe. And it was the idea of the matrix that I shared in that podcast was the matrix is the material expression of the self. This is our temple. And this is the location in consciousness where all of our beliefs, ideas, information that we connect with the idea of self inhabits consciousness. And then that's related to the physical expression of it, including our emotions, the energetic vibration that houses these beliefs. So the reason why I'm sharing this is there was a comment from a man who was talking about I am, and his comment was very interesting because it reflected, I should say, many of the common beliefs and fears around our own power and creation, like how we're related to our own power, the I am, and our sense of self and creation. He mentioned something about Satan and how Satan got too egotistical and thought he was God. And then and how deeply it's embedded in our religious belief systems, and this fear of like overstepping boundaries, like you're not allowed. But the truth is, like, we do it all the time. We say, I am this, I am that. And then it becomes our truth and we live into it. So whether you accept it as your power or you live passively in it, you're still doing it. And it has nothing to do with Satan. Sorry. But this is a really good opportunity for me, myself, to get really clear on it and to share it with you so you can get really clear on it. If anything is satanic, it's being unconscious in your I am and not realizing how powerful it is. You know, what you put after I am. And so this comes from the idea that Moses, you know, when he had his meeting on the mountain with the burning bush, he asked God, he said, what should I tell them? You know, what should I call you? And God said, I am that I am. And it's just so interesting. This concept is because for me personally, God is not a person with a name. It is a principle of life, of creation itself, of consciousness itself, imbued with the same powers that we all have it. Whether we're using it consciously or unconsciously, that's up to us. And actually not even up to us. It was part of our experience to be asleep to it. But now the energy in the planet is shifting, and it's almost welcoming people to step into this awakening process and stepping into this power of I am that I am. And so I'm in the process of putting together this week's podcast, and I'm actually putting together my book that I'm writing, and I'm saying it out loud because when you say it out loud, it becomes real. So I'm writing a book, and I haven't given it, well, I've given it lots of titles, but I haven't decided on a title. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because today I was writing. I made a commitment to myself that if I'm going to write a book, then I actually have to do some writing, right? So I'm going to give myself the challenge of writing 5 days a week for at least an hour. And I figured that was fair and it was doable, and not something that, you know, I just wouldn't do. So anyways, the reason why I'm telling you this is while I was writing for my book today and my podcast, because they're all connected, the topic came up with the idea of like this sense of identity. Like we say, I am, for example, a teacher, or I am fat, or I am a good communicator, or I am not very good at that. You know, whatever we say, we get this idea in our head, and then it becomes a limit. And so this idea is like mastering the matrix is actually a learning to be in that field of possibility, which I also wrote about in one of my podcasts called Build It and He Will Come. And it was about the field, the playing field. And all of this is related, right? But I've just been taking it in little pieces and sharing and expanding on it because it's a huge practice. It's not, you know, simple. So it is simple, but it's not easy because we haven't been given the tools, and we haven't been given the permission, and we haven't been given the ability to even imagine that it's possible. But that's what I'm here for, right? I'm here to give you and share with you all of that that's expanding. So the reason I'm coming to the point, right, it's just a massive unfolding and realization, and it's not conceptual. That's why it's hard sometimes to put it into words. this place of being is not a conceptual place, this place of I am that I am, which includes all possibility, which is being in the moment of now. Because if I am not in the moment, I already have a preconceived idea about who I am and what's possible, which automatically limits all my timelines to one or two trajectories, because I've already decided that I'm imprinting this moment with more of the past, which limits my future. But at the same time, it then verifies my ideas of what I had about, like the ideas I had about what's true and who I am. And then it just gets perpetuated. So what this is really asking you to do is like building your inner temple, creating your inner temple, is expanding your capacity to hold the truth of who you are. And so I was telling a story as I was writing a chapter in my book today, which was about an experience that I had in my late 20s, where I had done this, it was this really popular transformational program, and you would go for 3 days, and I won't mention the name, but what would happen is in 3 days, you would have this transformational shift in consciousness. And I did. It was good on its promise. But what I didn't know, and what they didn't tell me, and what occurred is I was able to make a transformation. I burst out of this limited sense of identity, like all these ideas I had about myself, all these ideas I inherited about what it was to be, a female at a certain age in a certain culture, and what I could and couldn't do from my family, and all of these ideas. I broke out of it. I made a huge quantum leap into another timeline. I didn't have that language at this time, but that's what I was doing. And because I didn't have the foundation, I didn't have the container, I didn't have the temple to hold the consciousness, what I ended up doing was stepping from one identity into another identity, and then getting stuck in that identity again, without knowing how or why, because I didn't have the capacity, I didn't have the tools, and I didn't have the awareness to know what I was doing. So and that was 20 years ago. That was more than 20 years ago. But the results changed the trajectory of my life in a very abrupt, dramatic way, but good. It also had it was an incredible growth period in my life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I got to travel all over the world and, create a dream that I had, unfold a dream that I had, that up until that moment had seemed impossible for me to create. And I did it. And then what happened is I got stuck. And so this whole idea of building a container to continue to hold this awareness is what I've been doing this whole time. And so there was a really important point that I wanted to make, is that the program allowed me to make a transition, but it wasn't sustainable because I didn't have the container to hold it. And that's where this idea of creating your inner temple in the 11-week series came out of, is the practices that I'm sharing with you are created and designed to help you to start holding that energy of all possibility, which is in the statement I am that I am, which really is a quantum relationship to self, which is a quantum relationship to consciousness, which is a quantum relationship to creation and the ability to create, which is the principle of God. And so that's why I'm so excited about this series. And sometimes, because it's such an expansive shift in consciousness, and it's being delivered in little nuggets every, once a week for 11 weeks, It's, difficult sometimes to communicate, but hopefully today I did a better job in explaining exactly what is happening in this 11-week series. And hopefully you have a better idea now. So this week the practice is going to be called I Am. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, that I just opened up a new Facebook group called, I got confused because it actually has a different name than the cover photo, which is I Am Abundance. But the name of the course is the Abundance Game Play Space. And it is based on the abundance game that I introduced, maybe a month or two ago. It's still available. You can download it from my website. It's free. And then if you'd like, you're invited to join the group. You just send me a direct message, and then we can just have a quick chat, and see if that's a place for you. And then you can join, and we're going to be taking a journey together on creating and looking at, what true abundance is and what does that actually mean. Because my belief is that we came here to this planet to fully express who we are with the joy and exploration of who we are. But a lot of people keep getting distracted by ain't it awful? And then it is awful. And I'm not denying the suffering and real experience of people out there. Not at all. And in fact, everything that I'm doing is in conscious response to that. Because I can't get sucked into ain't it awful, because then I'm just imprinting this moment with more ain't it awful. And so I cannot pay my energy to that. I cannot invest in that. Not because I don't feel deeply the suffering and pain of people. It's because I do connect with that, because I have been in that most of my life. And I am wanting to share this transformational shift in consciousness that can, like I said, I think it was last week, the 100 monkey effect, right? One person does it, shining their light, being in the fullness of their consciousness, creating the container for it to come to inhabit in their body, so they become a conscious creator of their reality. And then another person sees it, and then they make the jump because they say, hey, she can do it, I can do it too, right? So it is possible, and it is happening. And I want to invite you to join me and the rest of the beacons of light here at the Mind Heart Space, who are in the process of creating a life, not just a personal life, but a community. And from community becomes a culture, and from a culture becomes the world experience for those people that really want to be the change that what they wish to see in the world, like literally be it. All right, I'm going to be quiet now. And I'm just going to wish you a beautiful day. And I hope you can join me this Sunday, excuse me, for the 5th week of Creating Your Inner Temple. And it's at 12 Pacific Standard Time. And let me just check real quick. Sunday's the 5th, the day after the big celebration of independence. So this would be a perfect way for you to celebrate the true independence that starts from within and then ripples out into the world. And I want to wish you all a great Independence Day and remind you of what a treasure you are. And I hope to see you on Sunday. All right, bye for now.